Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, it's those guys, and today we're doing another episode of Star Trek Thursday. I'm Matt, and I'm here along with
John.
Now, John, they've appeared again, John.
Yep. We knew this day was coming.
John, why is this happening, John?
Well, they were still. You design a new adversary, you got to kind of give them a proper shakedown and try to make them work. And honestly, like I said, I think it was a step in the right direction. I'm gonna go right on record to say that they're definitely not there yet, and they're definitely not the new adversary that Next Gen needed. But here we are.
Yeah, so we are talking about the Ferengi, specifically in the episode known as Battle. So. You were talking to me, you said again, because you were talking to me about this off podcast. You were like, I thought actually this was a better portrayal of them. And I got to be honest with you, I agree. This definitely was better than what we had previously. Now, again, we should note, the bar was set very, very low. But it definitely is a much better portrayal of the Ferengi than previously. And I think the reason why is because, look, I'm not saying you can't have villains that are like this, but it really depends on the marketing. And they were being marketed as like these, like you're in a suit and you're walking around and you're like, I can't purchase this. Like, it was kind of like, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I feel terrible. It's from Star Wars. It was Count Dooku. Like, I imagine them being very much like Count Dooku, but they're more like, these gangly, kind of like bent
they're
over,
they're like evil
lanky.
Jar Jars. No.
Kind of, yeah. That's actually a great.
At this point, definitely not later.
At this point,
but,
yeah.
But they did dial them back. They dialed them back about 100%, I would say, from the last Outpost, and made them more schemers and ruthless and cold. And cut
but
your
here's
throat
what
to get
I
by
love.
without making them
that way. But here's the thing that I have to say that I love, though, John, and this is what matters to me the most. So they still are like that. Like they're more cutthroat. They still were supposed to be like that, but again, they showed it differently. But here's my take, though, John. The fact that it was like, hey, we are about the money, and the fact that this guy went outside of that's our prime directive. Show me the money. Show me the money. And the fact that he went against that over, and the fact that he went against that over a personal grudge. Ugh. Don't worry, I'm the captain now. And I was like, oh. Like, I thought they were going to be working with him the whole time. It's like his goals are our goals, and it's like, no, that guy's a renegade. Fuck him. And I was actually intrigued to see that. He literally was like, look, from one, first officer to another, good luck. And I was like, well, shit. Like, they knew that he had the device, the captain, but it's not like they were even shocked when he was like, no money. What? And it's like, what? This is collecting a debt. It's like, no, it's fucking not. There's no money in this. What, are we going to offer his life for money? That's dope. No, we're not. Fuck you. You're not the captain. Like, I enjoy, even though it's still sick in its own way and it's barbaric and all this stuff, it still shows that they are not necessarily always opposed. Like, it isn't this weird, because there's this weird situation with some villains where it's just like, it's like you're heating up some toast, you're synthesizing up some toast, and it's like, who fucked with the synthesizer? Damn it, the Ferengi! Always in our way. Why? It's like, no, they actually do have motivations. They aren't just these weirdos that are coming in everywhere. It's like, no, their motivation is money, plain and simple. If it goes against that, why do we care about you?
And it is interesting, like I said, you can already see that they're trying to flesh the Ferengi out and make them a little bit more believable and legit by having them adhere to sort of their own internal, almost their own internal sense of ethics or their own internal sense of honor. Is that they won't do things that aren't profitable. So we see that they do have a sort of there is a sort of societal code that they live by. They're not just marauders just raging around, grabbing anything that isn't nailed down. They do have a sort of there's a sort of civilized nature to them now, in a sense.
And I like
we're
that.
getting a little bit more that there's an actual Ferengi culture.
Yeah, and I like that a lot because it's needed. it was harshly needed for them to even try to claim that they're, these top dog new villains. These are the new Klingons and stuff like that. It's like new Klingons. What do you mean? So having this happen, I was impressed compared to their last outing at the Outpost. I was actually impressed. I don't know if this one is better than the last episode we saw because it did do some things that I usually don't like, but I do think that, again, the stakes were so high by the end of it, it might be one of my favorites so far, which is hard to do because the Ferengi were there.
Right, and it definitely is one of the more watchable outings for the first season. Like I told you before, I would put it above the previous episode for the fact that we got to see, it gave us a little bit of a glimpse into the character of and the past of Picard, who they really only at this point kind of just teased certain aspects of it. We know that his best friend died under his command. We know that now he's serving with his wife and their kid. So giving us a glimpse of Picard's time on the Stargazer was actually I really put this episode up there. Like I said, it's our first real glimpse into Picard's earlier career.
So I'm confused about one thing though. He died on that ship, or that's something completely different?
No, Crusher's husband died on the Stargazer. I think it was specifically an away mission, but he was serving. I think he was. He was either the tactical officer on the Stargazer.
No, but it wasn't in that. It wasn't in that outing. That's what I mean.
No, he wasn't. You didn't see any like ghostly Jack Crusher when you saw the sort of spectral images of the old crew, which that was
exactly.
And also Picard walking. There was also some really genuinely good moments. Like I think when Picard walked onto the bridge and said, "Hello, old friend." That was a good one.
Yeah. No, that's why I love this episode so much, is because it's how I can't believe I want to say his real name, not Picard, but for some reason my brain is just blanking. Why is my brain blanking on Patrick Stewart? God damn, he's a fucking national treasure. And I mean like every nation, not just ours or theirs. So yeah, he's the way he portrays this character in this episode and what he brings to the table, I truly believe it. And I believe that he believed that he was going through every motion again. Like that touched me at the end when he truly believes it's happening again and he's just telling them like, who are you? Look, we're being nice here. Why are you attacking our ship? And it's just the fact that Riker is trying to get through to him, and he literally asks, like, who are you? Like, you are a new person to me. We've never met, but you're not an enemy? Like, it was just, I don't know, like, it didn't seem fake. That's what really drew me in about this. Like, it didn't seem, and you mentioned this last episode when we were talking about the last episode, how Patrick Stewart has this way of delivering these lines as if he truly believes them, full conviction. No, like, we're being camp here. Wink. It's like, no, it's all on the table. And I feel like this episode
you hired me to deliver these lines, and I'm going to deliver the hell out of these lines.
And it's fucking funny because he did not believe in this show, at least early on. I don't know when that changed throughout the season, but early on he did not believe. We've talked about this before. He thought the show was going to get fucking canceled. So he didn't unpack his fucking suitcase. He didn't unpack. So he was in a hotel room, didn't unpack his suitcase. I don't know when that changed throughout the season, but either way, he was a professional through and through.
He definitely sunk his teeth into this episode. It let him, it let Picard steal the show, or let Patrick Stewart steal the show, which early on didn't really happen much. He was kind of a distant, remote figure, and here we actually kind of got kind of up close and personal with him, which was kind of an early treat.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having this weird mind device that isn't it's a device that is not I guess, always tied to the Ferengi, if that's the word I'm looking for here. It isn't like it's their device, homemade, something like that. No, it's something that was purchased with with money that was saved up. So it must be a lot of money, because the Ferengi love to make money, and they love money-making opportunities. So, like, I bring this up, though, John, because of the fact that, excuse me, the fact that because it would be complete bullshit if the Ferengi just have access to this technology 24/7. You would fucking run the galaxy if you did.
Yeah. No,
so
this is a one-time. This is a one-time thing.
Purchase. This is a one-time purchase. This is a high-ticket item. This is fine art of the. This is not.
It is a bit Saturday morning. It's a bit of a Saturday morning, like enemy MacGuffin. You know, it's like a brainwave. You know, but you know it's exactly that though. It's a MacGuffin. I feel like they kind of treat it for what it is, where the focus, they're really like the device itself isn't really a big deal. It really is just to get Picard into that situation where he's, like I said, he's hallucinating that his own, you know, he's in a battle with his own starship on his old, you know, like I said, on his old, which you know, kind of, it's like your old 89 Corolla going up against your new. Your new Lambo, or I don't know. I'm gonna be level with you guys. I don't own a car.
That's what I was sitting back and I'm like, is he saying these things thinking that someone who also does not own a car, would be good for that? I was like, what the fuck are you doing, John? No, but here's what. So this is the thing, right, John? Even though you're right, it is it is like this giant, like, I guess you called it Saturday morning. It's just very out there, very much like, not Deus Ex Machina, but it's very it's OP. That's the word that the kids use nowadays, and by nowadays I mean 10 years ago. It's OP. It's very overpowered, right? But I think they explained it very well, because if they had just said, yeah, the Ferengi can always do this. Why? Well, why would it's like then you could never destroy the Ferengi. No one could. Why are the Ferengi not running everything? What?
I just get this image in my head. Because I know you're saying like this isn't gonna, like, we're not gonna be running into this every week with Ferengis attacking people with thought makers, but I'm just thinking of Quark in because Deep Space Nine has a recurring character as a Ferengi bartender, and
he's a cool Ferengi. I've heard of him.
He's a cool, but I'm just picturing that every week they're worried that Quark is gonna whip out the thought maker and make you overthink your drinks or something.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No. So
this
is not a recurring thing that we see a lot. This is really just Bach specifically.
Yeah, on a revenge power trip, which that confused. So, okay, John, I'm sure they were trying to leave this open for interpretation, but it genuinely confused me, not because I don't like things being left open for interpretation, but because sometimes these episodes don't do that to leave it open. They do that because they've run out of time. So I don't know which is which in this situation. So I don't know if they ran out of time or they genuinely wanted us to not know if the Ferengi controlling Picard's mind and implanting things meant that everything in the episode was fake. Because only 2 of the recordings were false and we never knew which were. Like, it was never completely confirmed. Now, you could argue, no, but he's obviously faking everything he needed to fake just to take down Picard. But why would he lie about the revenge? He's not lying about the revenge. He is upset that his son was killed, but was his son killed unjustly or not?
And we're kind of expected to take on faith that Picard wouldn't just kill somebody in cold blood. Like, Picard wouldn't have attacked unless.
But that's the thing. The way they planted it was he wasn't killing in cold blood. The engine exploding was something that Picard did not account for and was not shown to him. So it was done in a way where it claimed that Picard was unaware that it was an engine exploding, not that it wasn't that, he thought it was them opening fire. So then he says, respond, why did you shoot at us? And they did not respond, allegedly. So he then opened fire. And then they opened fire, and then he says, well, you shot me once, I guess you're shooting me. We have to use warp. We have to do the Picard method, which I love that they brought that up, because I'm pretty sure they've brought that up already this season. So he used the Picard maneuver.
Now, just to jump in on this one important note, though, it's the Picard maneuver, and I bring that up because that actually became an important part of the Star Trek mythos. That's the name, the fan name, or the production company name, for when Picard stands up and tugs his shirt down in the later seasons. that's the Picard maneuver.
Thank you, John. This is why you're here, John.
Exactly.
So no, but very important. So, but when talking about the way they set this up, this one Ferengi, I still don't like. I'm not saying I don't know because again, like you said, we're supposed to take at face value that the Ferengi was lying to a certain extent, but it did happen though. The ship did explode. His son therefore did die. So does he truly believe that his son was unjustly killed? Or is he just like, no, you've killed my boy. I don't even care if he wanted to kill you because that's awesome, but you killed him, so I have to come kill you.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's a case of my son, my son can do no wrong, even though, because from what it sounded like is the son picked a fight with the Stargazer. The Stargazer shot the ship in a like kind of a warning shot across their bow, but in so doing accidentally, but again, that was only after the Ferengi ship had opened fire first.
Yes. Yeah, no, so that's the thing. So I'm assuming that it was, that it was the way Picard set it up. But remember, we don't know Picard yet. That's the thing, too. So in showing this is another weird case of it's good that we got backstory, but we get these weird red herrings, and it's like, well, which one is it? And I'm like, I don't know these people. Maybe it is true. I just met Picard the other day. It's been like a month, maybe 2 at this point. It's been like almost 2 months. I just met Picard. You can't throw red herrings at me like with the the Naked Now. It's just like, well, I mean, is this who they are, or are they under the influence? I don't know yet. What are you doing?
Do these people normally act like this?
Yeah. So in this case, I understand that, of course you have the Ferengi there with the orb, and that's the whole point. And they showed the orb very early, so like you had this idea. They're like, oh no, don't worry. You were concerned at first about this inner turmoil, and is it really Picard and what are these headaches? But don't you fucking worry. It's no guilt or anything like that. He's actually being controlled, so don't you worry. But then we find out that no, it really was his son. So that's why this kind of throws it into a loop. Not that the villain was right, but the villain was factually correct about certain things. So how much of it was a complete fabrication and how much of it was legit?
Right. And more to the point, how come on the Stargazer the stations are labeled?
Wait, what about the stations?
Cracked me up. The stations on the Stargazer, like Helm has like just Helm written in big letters. Like were officers having trouble finding their posts, and so that was necessary.
I mean, it was an earlier ship, so we could imagine that everyone on there was new. So maybe it was.
What are you doing? What are you doing down here, Lieutenant Ashbury? I'm just setting a new heading. Well, that's great. This is waste extraction. the bridge is
John, I think you have to remember that in TNG they had to have Picard tell them that it was Picard by having a P for Picard. So
exactly.
I think we need to remember that before you make fun of the stargazing team. Before you make fun of that crew, remember they had to see that who's messing with our systems. P for Picard. You have to remember that.
and just in case it didn't completely completely drive the point home, and then he uploaded an ad for Earl Grey tea just so they knew it was him.
Exactly. So I enjoyed the Ferengi in this one. I enjoyed the not just special effects because they were nice too, but like I mentioned earlier, Picard completely living through all this, not only living through it like, oh yeah, do this, do that. The cough, I know this sounds so silly to some people, but the cough that Patrick Stewart gave, I legit thought he was dealing with the smoke inhalation. It was
and because in his mind he probably thought that he was.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It was just too good. So I will admit, though, I'm happy because I know that it is what it is, but I was worried that they were going to go the route of oh, your deep-seated trauma is coming back to you through headaches for some reason. And for some other reason, you've completely forgotten about all of this, even though you have your own supplanted memories. And like, I thought they were going to get too cerebral in a way that was going to be an issue, but thankfully, with the Ferengi interference, it became more tolerable than just being one episode surrounding one person. Even though I want to learn more about Picard, but still, one episode surrounding one person and not really dealing with anything else. Because I think, like I mentioned last episode, this series does, I think, some of its worst as of this point when it only focuses on one person and barely on the rest of the cast.
Yeah, it's meant to be an ensemble. It's an ensemble show, but also TNG kind of operated in a way that each person kind of got like their day in the spotlight.
Then I think really it depends on the execution then, because some of these have not been executed well, in my opinion, but this one really was. And so I definitely prefer that as well. Anything about the episode that stands out to you, especially compared to your first time viewing it, which I assume was, like you mentioned last time, as a teen in the 90s?
So yeah, the battle was another one that I didn't really. I kind of slept on a lot of the earlier TNG episodes. It was a little while before I saw the whole of season 1. And this, like I said, this is definitely one of the better offerings. A little bit of lore with Picard's earlier career. One thing that I did find interesting was the fact that initially the Stargazer was supposed to be a Constitution class cruiser, just like the original Enterprise, just like Kirk's Enterprise. And later on, they decided to change it, but also I think they had already, and this is why the Stargazer is called the Constellation class, because they had already shot a scene of Geordi, I think it was, saying the name of the ship's class, and they needed to have something when they made the change that it was no longer, the Stargazer was no longer going to be a Constitution. They needed something similar sounding that they could dub over it.
Oh, wow. Oh, so then they got the actor in to redub the line.
Yeah, they looped in a new line about being where it's the Constellation class rather than Constitution, and then kind of the rest is history.
Crazy.
Yeah, so at some point during the probably relatively late in the episode's conception, they decided to make it a different type of ship.
That's crazy to think about. That's not new to live-action media. There's actually a lot of stuff that's been overdubbed. I don't know about newer stuff, probably from behind, like shots like that. But there's a lot of stuff in older media, both in English and even Japanese. I can't speak for other regions, that get dubbed over like that. Funnily enough, a lot of Japanese superhero shows back then, they filmed either in whatever lot or, wherever they were filming, lot, house, canyon, right? And they filmed there, but they didn't have the mics on spot. So even though they said all their lines out loud, they redubbed it later. This was in the
exactly.
70s, 80s, 90s. But here's what gets really interesting, though, John. Sadly, and he's fine now, but at the time, the actor for the original Kamen Rider, the actual live-action actor, not like a suit actor or anything like that, he got injured doing one of his own stunts on a motorcycle. So they had to find a way to write him off. So they did. They brought in Kamen Rider 2, and then when the actor got better, they brought him back. So then they had both Kamen Riders going at it as like this duo of justice. But the reason why this is relevant, John, is because when the actor got injured, they were like, fuck, we have to write him out really quick. So they do that, and they find their plot threads do that, but they have to get someone else to redub some of his lines with what they've already filmed, because he was in a full cast at the time. I don't know if it was full body, but he couldn't walk because I think his leg was broken. He was in no shape to film those scenes, so they had to get someone else, who I don't know who this was to this day, to dub over the lines, and you could just hear it. You're like, that's not the same guy. Oh, here's something you'll love. The guy who played the original Kamen Rider is Sega Sanshido.
Oh, of the Sega Saturn thing?
Yes, the Sega Saturn thing. Yeah, he's Sega Sanshido, and he was the original Kamen Rider. So that's why he was so popular in Japan, because everybody knew him from 20 years prior.
Everybody learned something today.
Yeah, everybody learns something but I bring up the overdubbing stuff because again, like in a pinch they need to do shit like that, and even just the standard they need to, dub over stuff like that. So it's very interesting that stuff like that will happen. A lot of older Ultraman, I know you're somewhat familiar with Ultraman. A lot of older Japanese Ultraman have had, like, you could tell, you squint, you're like, that wasn't the original line, because literally they're like, this one works better, but we already filmed this. Fuck it.
Plus, the fact that a lot of Sentai characters, they wear masks where the lips don't move, so it's easy probably to overdub other.
Well, no, not even like that. I meant like the actual live action people outside of the suits. Sometimes you could squint and be like, he did not just say that. Even in Japanese, you're like, he said something completely different. So they just added stuff in the booth when they went back to redub.
You could tell.
But anyway, but yes, you're right. As superheroes, they do have that option as well, and of course they have different, people doing the stunts usually and everything like that. So like that's different as well. But I mean, like the actual actors themselves, back in the day, already had to normally naturally redub, but then certain scenes are like, no, it's not the same line. Even if you don't know Japanese, you could just see it. It's like that's too long. He just opened his mouth and said something with one syllable. And there were like 4 syllables in that. Anyway, so back to you could always kind of tell. But back to this episode though. This was another weird situation with Beverly where I was so confused. Where like she was a bit stronger, which I liked. She was like, "I'm the only person on here that can order you, Captain," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, Beverly." But then throughout the entire episode, she's like,
"Where was that a few episodes ago when he was acting really weird?"
I love it. But in this case, though, it is kind of odd. Well, it's funny that they've apparently gotten rid of headaches. That's great. But, like, I love it. Like, you have a minor headache? Sorry, come back to me when your arm's falling off. But what is interesting, though, is even though, yes, I get it. She doesn't know what's going on necessarily, but she's still very, like, she's strong at first, but then very flippant as the plot needs to go on. She's like, well, I mean, I guess if I can't figure it out, you could probably die on the ship. I guess, like, it does, yes, throughout the episode, she is like, oh, you're working again. To be fair, she does say stuff like that. But it's very chill in a way. It's just until the end, until the climactic end where it's like, all right, I got to find Riker. And like you said, where was this a few episodes ago when the entire ship was in danger?
Yeah, it's just like, oh well, when he has a cold, no, not a cold. That's later. When he has a headache, you have no problem stepping up and taking him down. But before again, she unless she learned from that experience that any time if the captain's even acting even slightly off, then it's cause to kind of step in. So taken that way, I kind of choose to see it that way. That actually makes it a little more sense that she's actually learning from the past experiences, which is especially cool in a show like TNG where it's episodic and nobody really seems to learn anything.
Yeah, I don't think if we take it that way, that's good, but I think that's more fan canon than anything, which is sad because it would be nice.
My headcanon is that season 1 was good.
Oh my God. That is my head, and everything that happened in the show was science fact, not science fiction. Oh no, John. They got us. So I don't know what else I can say about this episode. Not that we end it right here, because that'd be funny. But I don't know what else to say other than I really enjoyed Patrick Stewart's performance. I enjoyed the Ferengi's performance, and it seemed like people were more in character. Oh, I remember. I was shitting on Wesley through text to you because I do feel like for all this episode's strengths, and like I said, this is definitely one of the better ones. There is one line from Wesley that I believe was the shot heard around the world that cemented the entire fandom's hatred of him forever. Okay, you first then. And that line, of course, would be, "You're welcome, ladies." Adults. So I think the problem was the delivery and also the pacing and also the line. But even if the line wasn't the problem, it was the delivery and pacing. And I don't actually blame Will Wheaton. Why do I not blame Will Wheaton? Putting aside the fact that he's a teen actor, so I think it was one of his first roles, even putting that aside, they should have let that sink in and let it sit. But for some reason they didn't, so it was like, yeah, let's get it through quickly. Like, they only did one take with him. I'm sure they did multiple. If that was the best he could do, sorry. No. But I don't think that was the best he could do. I think that they honestly were like, all right, we got to get this done quick. So, all right, he said the line. Fuck it, let's move on. Because it didn't sit.
I did read, like I said, it's been a little while, but for a while there, Will Wheaton himself was doing a blog where he would review each of the season 1 episodes, and I don't think he got through the whole first season before he stopped. And he would be a review, but he would share his anecdotes from working on the episode. I thought it was really awesome.
I like that,
and I was kind of hoping that he would continue, but at some point I think he did kind of stop updating it. But he said that he just hated, like, that was just a prime example of the fact that he hated, even as a kid, that he had to say these horrible lines that he knew everyone was going to hate. But this is just what was written for him. So really, it definitely shouldn't be Will Wheaton hate, and it shouldn't even be Wesley hate. It should be the season 1 TNG writers hate for forcing a human being to say that kind of dialogue.
Forcing a human being, just whipping him. You must use this dialogue, child, human child.
But you had me rolling about the ColecoVision sweater.
Damn it! You fucking ruined the punchline, John. John, you ruined the punchline. I was getting that next one. Damn it, Dad John, old man John. You ruined the punchline. All right, so the next thing, so this was, because I let you go first, but what I actually had said first was when Wesley walked in, so like in the first 5 minutes, I believe, or like 10 minutes, and he was like, hey, you're about to get a call. And I was like, how do you know that? And it was like, because I'm so much cooler than all of you. And like just his delivery, and I'm like, fucking walking in here with that arrogance with a fucking ColecoVision sweater. Because the logo, I'm like, that's the ColecoVision colors, isn't it? And it kind of is when you look at the logo.
It is.
So, John,
it's the rainbow stripe, which honestly, like, I think you can get that sweater now. Like, that's become sort of like a pop cultural icon.
Well, no, I'm not saying
it may not be any pumpkin sweater.
It's only bad on Wesley with his attitude. Devoid of his attitude, I'm not going to make fun of the sweater. But because of his attitude and because he's a 15-year-old boy with a ColecoVision colored sweater, I'm like, or striped sweater, I'm like, how dare you? So, by the way, John, what is your experience with a ColecoVision? I was under the impression you never picked up one. So when you knew what that was, I know you're older than me, but like you don't have, as far as I know, a lot of Atari ColecoVision memories. So when you knew what that was, I was like, well, John.
I had kind of a weird history. I had a kind of a weird history of video games, to be completely honest. The first video game system that we had in my house was a ColecoVision, but we got it in the summer of 1990. Well into the tenure of the NES. Most kids had NES at that point. I wasn't really, like I said, at that point I was about like 6 years old. I wasn't humongous into video games. I would just kind of watch when my cousins would play. And without airing too much of my family's dirty laundry, basically, my cousins had gotten an NES, and my uncle, who was a person of dubious character, decided that because they had the NES that they could just that he could give away their ColecoVision. So they let my sister and I have it, and without asking them or without telling them, just said, we're going to give away your ColecoVision because you have something better now. So I basically I didn't really know what the story was behind it until years later. And then we gave it back to them because they said that much later, like 10 years later, we gave it back to them because we felt bad that it was taken from them in the first place. But so the ColecoVision was my first video game system. Well after its heyday, but when I was a little kid, I didn't really.
I'll get you a ColecoVision for your birthday. So no, here's the thing, John, with me and video games too. So my family was always on the cheap with games, and I only realize this now. And why do I realize this now? So I got a Super Nintendo I would argue very close to when the N64 was supposed to come out. So I got the N64 really late when the GameCube was already out. So I always got stuff on sale, I would argue. Now, I'm not saying every video game was on sale, to be fair, because my mom did get me like Pokemon games and stuff like that. So to be fair, those were full priced, I will admit. But I've noticed, though, I don't know if it was my dad or if it was my mom, when I look at some of my Super Nintendo games, do you know the company Majesco, John?
Yes.
Okay, and if anyone's confused, they're called Majesco, not Majesco John. That'd be very interesting. So Majesco, they did, that was a fun joke. They did re-releases of games on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, all completely legal. They went through the proper channels, and in doing so, they were budget-titled re-releases. So my Mega Man X, I realize this now, was a budget $30 re-release. There's nothing wrong with the game. There's nothing missing from the game. It's just that it is a Majesco re-release, and the manual is in, if you maybe you would, the general you would think this is wrong, the manual is in black and white instead of being like a grayish, instead of being full color. And that's how you know, if you don't open up the cart or you don't see the sticker on the cart, or if you don't have the box anymore like I didn't, this is a Majesco re-release. So I wondered for years why they were in black and white. I thought maybe we rented them and never returned them, because I was like, because Blockbuster would sometimes do shit like that. So I thought maybe, or early on, before they got a copyright, lawsuit from Nintendo. So I thought that was the issue. No, my family just got me Majesco re-releases of Mega Man X, The Lion King, and a few other games. So I bring this up, John, is because we both, even though we're both 10 years apart, a little over, I thought, or around that.
Whoa, I am 8 years your senior. Do not sell me short.
I'm sorry. As I said around, I said 10 or around, which meant
don't
less
round
than.
up when you're talking about my age. No.
How dare you? No, but I bring this up because even though we have 8 years on each other, according to John, we are still got into the games really late. So I didn't even know you had a ColecoVision. I forgot about that. But we still got into the games really late when it comes to literally video games. Now, you never had TNG as a game, did you?
No, because I think well the TNG there was an NES game for it, and actually it's kind of funny. Part of the reason that I got into Star Trek was like TNG specifically was that one of what I would do is that at that point, speaking of reprinted games, it was like the mid to late 90s, and Walmart was selling a lot of the Sunsoft reprints of old Game Boy games, and basically I would just walk in there with $20 every couple weeks and just treat myself to a kind of a budget game, and I got the TNG for Game Boy, and
I feel terrible. I don't want to promote our other stuff and feel like I'm like I have no shame, but like this is basically the premise of another series that we do over at our Those Guys Play channel, which is John's Game Room, where it's been one so far, where we took a look at some games in your, actually no, it's been two so far, your Dreamcast and PS1 collection, some of the higher ticket ones that you literally would get for $20, but some of them are now worth hundreds of dollars. It's hilarious. Yes. Now that one is not worth hundreds of dollars now, as far as I know, but do you still have it?
Probably not.
But do you still have it or no?
I don't know. That's another one of those.
It's not in your.
It's in the attic or the garage or.
Oh, because it's not in your tote. Because in your tote you have all the disc-based games.
Yes, this is an old school
like
Game Boy title.
Yeah, so this needs to be found elsewhere. So no, yeah, but that's actually really cool because I've never asked you about Star Trek with video games and you because I actually don't know too much about the Star Trek games. So yeah, when I thought about it for a second, I'm like, wait, that sounds like something John would have had, and yeah, you got it for like $10. So it was in box fully.
Yeah, it was a complete game. It wasn't actually it wasn't a Sunsoft reprint. That was for the Game Boy Final Fantasy games. But yeah, it was Walmart was selling because it was like 97, 98 around there when the Game Boy was kind of on its last legs. So they were they were basically clearancing out Game Boy games, and so it was easy to come by at that point.
But John, I feel bad asking you this as we're getting closer to wrapping this up. John, did you throw out the box? The box,
the box didn't make it. I don't think the box made it home, honestly. But yeah, I don't think, as I said, it was not a stellar game. It definitely was a Final Unity, this Game Boy one. So it was basically a support of the NES one. So it was interesting enough, but it was basically it was everything you'd expect a licensed game to be.
Yeah. All right then. So, anything else you want to say about this episode? Any differences you remember from that disc you had back when you were a wee little one? That told you all the differences with the scripts.
From this one, not really.
You were a teen? No. Okay. But what was your favorite part of the episode?
I was a young adult, late teen, early 20s.
Like I said, a wee little one compared to your age now, which is still very young. John,
yes, of course.
What was your favorite part of this episode?
Like I said, his first, Picard first stepping onto the bridge of the Stargazer, and kind of having that, you could definitely feel his sense of nostalgia. I definitely appreciated that, and also, like I said, even like the ghostly crew and the him thinking that he was in a battle back on his old ship. They said it almost kind of reminded me of people that I said that remember their old battles, old servicemen and things like that, kind of remembering the past. And there really was a sense of sort of wistful kind of melancholy to it, because like I said, this was and Picard would go on in a later episode, would speak very fondly of his time on the Stargazer, and would actually confide in one of the guest characters that if he could, he would do it all over again. So there are days that, even though the Enterprise is so much, is technologically superior, the Stargazer is the ship that he misses.
So yeah, and you mentioned the fact that we obviously have not gotten much of his past before this episode. So to me, even though we know that he's older, they've mentioned he was on a ship before, we've had this teased, it still does feel like, not that he's a new captain, but that while he's a veteran, it's still because he's new here and new to us that he's new. But it's like, no. He's been around the block. Like, you could write novels about his time on the Stargazer, like you don't, like, this isn't his first rodeo. And it's not like, it's not his first rodeo. But it's interesting because you could argue, it's not his first rodeo because he's been with the Federation, but not necessarily having his own ship for a long time or yada yada. It's like, no. He's had his own ship for a very long time. Not his first rodeo. Like, this is a seasoned veteran, despite the fact that to us he's brand new. So I enjoy getting a lot more of that backstory because, again, we've been severely lacking that, and it's a TV show, for Christ's sake. So, like, I understand each and every episode can't necessarily tie into each other, but it's very interesting to have, especially coming from, and I know TV has changed dramatically, but having the Netflix approach, which is every episode must tie into every single, and I know that there's exceptions, but every episode must tie into every single episode. And sometimes it gets a bit too overwhelming. So it's interesting to have the exact opposite, where it's like, no, we need to make sure these run in syndication. So they will barely connect, and I mean barely. It's nice to get an info dump.
As time goes on, in the later seasons, we will get more in the way of recurring story arcs, and even in season one, like I said, there are a few threads that come back. We do see Q again.
Yes,
in the next episode,
we may be seeing him soon. Yeah, because I saw that next episode. Netflix shows you everything, sometimes too much. So I'm like, we're getting Q next week. I'm liking it. Yeah. Something I have not mentioned. I should have mentioned this last week. I feel bad saying this. We are in the month of October, which means that it's Halloween, it's spooky time, so you can actually check out, not just on Those Guys on the Radio, but on our Those Guys Play and TG Productions channel. We're getting spooky all over the place. So we're getting a Halloween makeover. I guess this is a scary episode because the Ferengi were in it, and the last one was scary because Wesley did not get executed. So both horrifying episodes.
Continuing
truly.
The theme of spine-chilling terror.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I don't hate this character of Wesley, but every now and again they really try hard. Because, like, in that entire episode, I was like, man, like, I really hope he doesn't get executed. This is intense. This is thrilling. I need this drama. And then the next episode, he's just like, yeah, you're going to get a call soon. How do you know? Well, why are you questioning me? Adults. And I'm like, fucking ColecoVision. So it's just...
You guys get on my level, and maybe because once you can pull off a ColecoVision sweater, you can do anything.
There are some people out there that are so mad that I made that reference because they're like, I fucking love the ColecoVision and I hate Wesley. How dare you?
I come from a very specific part of the Venn diagram that loves the ColecoVision and hates Wesley, and I will not be listening to your show again.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no. Now I want to get that sweater. Do you know how badly I want that sweater now?
Tracker,
and I just made fun of him.
My dad makes rainbow sweaters.
No, but now I want that sweater now. Now I'm actually kind of mad. I got to see where I can buy one.
Well,
I mean, winter is coming.
That settles what to get you for Christmas.
Oh God. I have to. If I ever get that sweater, I will only wear that sweater while doing Star Trek reviews. And I don't mean like these. I don't mean like these. I mean like on camera. When we do anything on camera, I will only wear that sweater. It will be 98 degrees during the summer, and I will be wearing that
Please,
sweater.
For your own sake, take the ColecoVision Wesley Crusher sweater off.
I can't. I just can't. Oh my God!
I can't pull this.
Oh my God.
I knew I couldn't pull the sweater off. I mean, I literally can't. It has become grafted to my skin.
Matt, are you okay? Fire torpedoes, number 1. Oh no! The sweater has attached itself to Matt. I am the sweater. Oh no!
All right,
Jesus
sir.
Christ.
Can I just take down your name, Jean-Luc Picard?
This has gone off the rails. We have to go. We have to stop. So any final words? Any last words? I shouldn't word it like that. Before we go, John, or are we good? Are we good for this one?
I think we're good. I think we're ready to warp on to the next adventure.
We are. Either way, I loved how they all fawned over Picard because again, it's something that we don't see often. Like everyone just kind of somewhat serious, but somewhat messes around. So it was really nice for them to be like, just Picard in general, just that's what I did, and they're like, that's what he did, that's what he says. Come on, look at you champion. Like that was kind of nice to see. It was very. It was, I don't know. It was just nice to see them fawning over him for what he's done. Because again, we don't know much about what he's done. So we know that they know of his work, but sometimes it's just like,
We're
like,
reminded that he's not just a cranky old captain. He's a decorated veteran of Starfleet.
Exactly. And I was nervous when he goes, he tells them all to leave, and he says, hey, bring down the tractor beam, and he's kind of being a dick, which is kind of like, fuck you. But I was worried when it's like, oh, where's the captain? Transporter room. New information. He's not on the ship. I thought he was going to kill himself. Like, I thought he was so – no, I thought he was so – because I thought he was sitting there and he's like, oh, my God, I did fire on that ship, and that means that I actually killed innocent people on that ship. I need to atone for myself, and I'm going back to this place. So, because it was this very weird feeling of like this, like euphoric, like I'm feeling just fine, everything's good. Guys, come on, just leave me alone, it's fine. And then when being left alone, he beams himself onto that ship after saying the traction isn't connected to it anymore. I was like, what's happening here? And then, of course, the Ferengi are controlling him to do all that until, it's like, I'm going to kill you on the ship. And you will also, and I will force you to kill your friends, which also is very powerful indeed. But no, I thought he was legitimately like, I'm going to atone for my actions. I have no fucking idea. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So it was intense until I learned what the true goal was, because I was like, does he truly believe that he killed those people in cold blood? Because this is the information he's being fed while he's asleep.
Yeah.
So I had no idea.
That would have been a fairly dark turn. But...
I mean, yes, but Star Trek can get dark.
Yeah, that's true.
I just didn't know where it was going to go. Because, again, I'm like, well, again, not like he wants to. Like, he's like, oh, it's a good day to do it. But, like, I thought it was more like you are being fed this information. Does he even know what he believes anymore about what happened? I didn't know.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
So either way, though.
Yeah, and there actually is an episode like that where it's like kind of illusions make someone like almost try to kill themselves. So it's not there. You're right. Star Trek does go there.
See, I'm not. See, even though I don't know anything about that episode, I don't even know what series it's in, and you could just tell me that it was from a novel and tell me it was from a show, and I'll agree with you. But see, I was right. I deserve recognition.
Yes.
I don't even know. Anyway, but thank you all so much for listening in, as always. Please, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you're not, maybe you're listening to this through our iTunes, which you searched up Those Guys to find, or maybe through our Blog Talk Radio, blogtalkradio.com/Those Guys on the Radio. I don't know how you're listening to this. All I know is I thank you for listening. And if you're on our Patreon and helping support us through there, which is patreon.com/TG Productions, thank you as well. So love you all. Take care. Because it's Halloween, you can check out all the spooky stuff going on at TG Productions and Those Guys Play, other channels of ours as well. Or you don't have to. You could just not. That's cool too. Love you all. Take care. Tune in next time for another episode of Star Trek Thursday. So, see ya.
Trick or treat.
John,